Yo, what is up, everybody? So, back, maybe part 2, episode 2, Becoming Uncommon. So, part of my mission in life has a lot to do with where I came from. And I think this is relevant because what is common is people struggle in addiction with alcohol. And I was one of those people. So, about 10 years ago, it'll be 10 years in February, I found myself in the hospital with pneumonia, very unhealthy, weighing about 320 pounds, just in a bad place. And really, I basically drank myself to the hospital. And I put myself in the edge of death, right? I had a seizure because I was so low in oxygen. Could be a little bit of alcohol withdrawals too. I don't really know. And anymore, I don't really care. It doesn't matter. Right? But what matters is it was the social norm at the time. And when I was early on in the fire service, and that was just kind of the thing to do. And we ran a series of bad calls that kind of really put me in a bad headspace, and I didn't know what to do and how to cope. Couple this with a toxic relationship and another job that probably wasn't going anywhere fast. Well, you got the recipe for disaster, right? But I came from a place, and so many do, where drinking is normal. We go party every single night, you go do your construction job, and you drink after. That's what we did, that's what people did, that's what people do, that's what was normal, the common thing, right? So as we progress into becoming uncommon, we got to recognize and identify those things. So my struggle and my addiction with alcohol was my common thing. And it put me in a place where I would consider I hit rock bottom. I had very little to no money by the time I got out of the hospital. Really didn't have a job, anything. I had a job, but I wasn't in a good place. And so when I came out of the hospital, I was like, okay, I'll be sober for a little bit, I'll get my life right. And as soon as I was sober for a couple of weeks, things started going very well. Like, very well. I started losing weight, I started having a lot more energy, I started going on a lot of walks. And I started going on, long walks, and I started to clear my head and process things. And for a long time, I just thought, hey, I'll just quit drinking for a little bit. And I think so many people think that and assume that that's what they're going to do, is just quit for a little bit, get sober, get right. But then after a handful of months, I realized, I was like, well, what am I doing here? What's the point? And why would I ever go back to something that was so toxic for me? And it was just such a part of my life. It's what people identified Hugh as, is, yeah, if you want some whiskey, you want someone to drink whiskey with you, go hang out with Hugh. And that is not who I wanted to identify with. And I took a lot of time for myself. And I realized there was some things that I needed to work on, but there was also people in my life that were creating this issue. And I was actually engaged at the time, and she had left, and then that kind of sent me into a little bit of a spiral. I gave it a go with that girl again, and I realized that maybe that was part of the reason for some of my struggles was, well, that wasn't a good relationship. And with a sober, clear mind, I was able to move away from that, step back from that, and then start to see things clearly again. And so for a few months after that, I just took the time to be. And I lived in the deep woods at the time in a nice little cabin, and I was able to just process and come to and realize where and what I needed to do. And I talk about this all the time, is accepting fate, doing what is laid out for you, God's plan, recognizing the things that are opportunities. And so I was driving home from school one night. I had started school again and started working on my fire associate's degree and stuff, and something told me to get online and create an online dating profile, right? So I did that. I did just that. And, within a couple hours, there's all kinds of chicks hitting me up to give me their credit, or so that I could have my credit card info and I'd get a show. So I was like, well, this is kind of silly. So I was getting ready to delete it, and then the very next day I got a message from a beautiful young woman named Lindsay. And the whole thing kind of set in motion. I knew that she was not fake, she was real. And we started talking non-stop for basically about a week, and then we met. And basically from the moment that we met, I knew that this woman would be my wife. And she's the mother of my children, and yeah, the whole world. So if I had not gotten sober, I would have never met my wife. And if I hadn't met my wife, I wouldn't have moved to where we live now in Eagle County, Colorado, where I just quit my fire job, and I walked into the local firehouse there, and I said, hey, I got all these wildfire quals. I know you're not hiring, but I could volunteer and take out an engine and make some money that way and make some money for the district. And I did just that. I walked in, and within a few months they had created a position for me. And then fast forward a year later, we're partnering with the big fire district down the road. And then fast forward a couple years later, and we've created a national program, a national model that everybody looks towards for a self-sustaining wildfire program. So as we work to become uncommon, we got to identify our common struggles, right? The common struggles that we face every single day. What is the difficult thing that is holding us back from becoming uncommon? And for me, that was my struggle with alcohol. And as soon as I was able to see the world with a clear mind, well, then I was able to move forward in a much more passionate, driven purpose. My purpose was clear, and it was to help people. And then through my relationship with my wife, well, that's blossomed into part of our fitness journey now. And that's a whole nother topic right there. But I think it is important for people who are going to watch this to understand where I came from, the struggles that I faced, and then some of those things that I built up to create the life that I have now. And for me, quitting alcohol and finding a replacement, and for me that was definitely fitness, and now it is 100% bodybuilding, is my medicine for addiction. So I've swapped addiction for passion, and then I have that passion of leadership too, and then of course being a good dad. And all of these things go together, right? If you're a good leader of your home, well, you're a good dad. If you're a good, strong fitness individual, you carry yourself well, you're a good example for the people that you lead and your family. They're all coupled together in our mission to become uncommon. So find out what your common trait is, your common mistake, your common toxic habit, the common thing that's holding you back. Identify that. We all have something that we know we shouldn't be doing. And when we can identify that, we can start to move towards another place where we are going to better ourselves. So that's what I got for you. If you're struggling with alcohol, feel free to message me privately. I'd be happy to talk to you about the struggles that I had and what I worked through. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Appreciate you.